Welcome, everybody, to another Friday night live edition of YouTube live stream with myself and usually Mr. David Green, who unfortunately is not here tonight. He's got some busy things that we're going to jump in and talk to you guys about. But welcome, everybody that is joining us. Tonight, we're going to be talking specifically about facing the recession and conquering your fears during uncertain times. So you're definitely going to want to be here. It's going to be a fun night, and let's get this party started. All right, we are here live once again on another Friday night. Do me a favor, if you are just joining us here and hanging out, drop your name and your information and your location in the chat. Let us know where you're hanging out from tonight. I am here in my studio office in Folsom, California. Had a very long and super busy week, but a productive week. Some of the best weeks are the ones where you're super busy and they go fast. It's like you start on Monday and all of a sudden you're like, it's Friday already. Where did this come from? But really excited to talk and jump into tonight's topic, talking about the recession. But before we do that, let's see who is hanging out with us tonight. So we got Devin saying good evening. Thanks you guys for showing up each Friday. Each Friday we're here, of course, here for you. La Mirada, another Devin. Oh, wait, no. Sorry, that's the same Devin. We also have Iron Timbers, cool name, from his real name's Dustin from Osgood, Indiana. Welcome. Shawayne from Minneapolis. Love it. Good to see you. Ken, Tampa. Kenosi, Chris from Lowell. What's going on, my man? We got Rick from Kansas City, Missouri. Shermansdale, Pennsylvania is Peel Country Boy. Zach, my man, once again, I know always sad when David isn't here, but my boy Michael's here. Good to see you. I know I owe you a text message. I'm sorry. I will get that over to you soon. Brianna, checking in from Massachusetts once again. Good to see you. Adriana from Phoenix again. I love that we have repeat conversations. I love that we have people continuing to come back and hang out and talk during these conversations. We got Dude Real Estate once again from Fort Collins, Colorado. Good to see you. Angela, my girl from Pittsburgh. Keegan from Michigan. Rhonda, once again from Vacaville. Very nice. Grants Pass, Oregon. We got Kenny. I love it. We've got so many people checking in from all out throughout the country. And I got to tell you, I am excited. There's a lot happening right now in the real estate world, just seminar-wise, conference-wise. So the first thing is to let you know, why is Mr. David Green not here? Well, sometimes he travels. Sometimes he's got things going on. One of the cool things that he has going on right now is actually tonight he is speaking at a meetup live in Southern California. I believe it's in like Anaheim or somewhere around there. But they have about 225 people. It's completely sold out. It's a David Green team event. So he's got that going on tonight, and he asked me to jump in and fill in for him on tonight's topic, and something I'm really grateful to be able to do and be here to have that conversation. So excited to have everyone here. Devin asked a question about how is the Discord coming along? That's actually a really good question. It's coming along really, really well. We are starting to make sure we get some of the bots worked out. We have things like profanity bots. For a lot of you that don't know what that is, basically it's a thing that if someone goes in and uses a bad word, this bot will actually not allow people to add it in. And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, this Discord server is a new thing that David has coming out that we are all very excited about. It's actually called DG's World. And it's a great opportunity to get into the David Green ecosystem and get your questions answered related to real estate. So what I'm talking about is if you've ever had a question about, what are the interest rates looking like right now? Or what's the market look like in Florida? Or should I consider buying in Massachusetts? Or whatever your question is, this is your opportunity to come in and connect with industry professionals, lenders, talking with real estate agents, property managers. I mean, you name it, people that are in the industry on a day-to-day basis. These are people that have been vetted by David and trained by David. And it's a really good opportunity to just come in and learn from them directly. And so it's DG's World. It's going to be on this server called Discord, which is basically a chat application and a chat program. Something we're definitely looking to roll out here in the coming weeks, especially to the beta testers. And Devin was probably one of the people last week that put his information in. And so we're going to get you that free invite. So keep an eye out for it. Love it. So that being said, there's a lot of other things going on in the real estate world. I'm actually in a Keller Williams office. That's a brokerage where we hang our license. And I can tell you it's completely empty right now. There's nobody here. And the reason that it's empty is primarily because they're all at this thing called Family Reunion. And Family Reunion is a huge get together. I think they get, something like 20, 30, 40,000 real estate agents that are part of Keller Williams all throughout the United States. And they're all hanging out in Anaheim this weekend. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it. So I'm here and I'm hanging out with you guys on YouTube Live. So if this is your first time hanging out, if you haven't been here before and you want to talk a little bit more about, okay, what's this YouTube Live thing about? What are we talking about? We're going to jump into that. So here's the ground rules. I would love for any one of you to come in tonight, come live on the video stream with me and chat with me. Maybe it's a question you have. Maybe it's a comment or some kind of thing that you're seeing in the economy or in real estate or in your business that we can talk about. So here's how it works. I'm going to put this little banner up on the bottom called a ticker. And there's a phone number at the bottom, 833-777-0309. And if you send a text message to that number, text your name, text your question or the thing you want to talk about, this is going to be your opportunity to come in and talk about tonight's topic. So Angela, thank you very much. I'm super appreciative that I get to be here and hang out and chat with all of you guys tonight. And it's going to be a good topic. This is something that is actually near and dear to my heart. So let's jump right into tonight's topic. I don't want to waste any more time. I want to talk about the looming and fearing recession that everybody's afraid of. So the first thing I want to come out and say is I am not a doom and gloom person. I am not the kind of person that's going to say, oh my gosh, the recession's coming. You better be ready for it. It's going to happen. We're all going to end up in a really bad position. Okay. However, on the other note, you do want to prepare for times that are difficult. You do want to prepare for times that there may be challenges, right? For any of you that have lived on this earth for any significant amount of time, even 10 or 11 or 12 years, you know that life is full of seasons. You know that life is full of ups and downs. You know that there are going to be times of harvest, but there are going to be times of want and times of need. And so in those times of harvest, you need to be preparing for the times of need. And this is something that David has always taught us as well, is a lot of times when we get complacent or we get comfortable because we have so much money coming in on a regular basis, or there's so much opportunity in the economy, we don't even think about what is coming ahead, right? We think that the good times are going to last forever, when in reality, they really don't last forever, right? And so one thing I do want to say is I'm not a doom and gloom kind of guy. I'm not a guy that's going to say, oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end. However, you need to be prepared for the downturns. You need to be prepared for the times of want and the times of need. And my question to you tonight is, what are you doing to prepare for the times of want and need? Are you thinking about your future? Are you thinking that the money that you're making now will always continually come in, or come in as easily as it has come, right? Is the economy always going to be as smooth and easy as it's become? So the first thing I want to jump into tonight and talk about specifically is the recession and the indicators. We're going to actually watch a video here for a few minutes and chat a little bit about what we're seeing. So we have a video tonight from Marco. He's the guy who does Whiteboard Finance. If you've ever watched him, he puts out a lot of really good content. And he's going to talk a little bit about, okay, what is the recession and what is the indicator? So let's jump right into that and get this ball And this party started. All right. Bear with me.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. My name is Marco, and I'm here to help you master your money and prepare for the next upcoming recession based on this indicator. Thanks to Policy
What's
Genius
going
for
on, Derek?
sponsoring this video, but more on that later. So we're sitting in a deeply inverted yield curve, which has typically preceded every single recession since the 1980s. And also, if the yield curve remains inverted for, I believe, 90 days or more, it's 100% been an indicator that a recession is coming within the next, I'd say, 0 to 18 months, which I'll show you in this video. So if you didn't watch my last video where I bought $50,000 worth of T-bills and I briefly mentioned the yield curve, go check that video out. But for those of you that don't know what the inverted yield curve is, I'll explain this very quickly. So the inverted yield curve is actually the unusual drop of yields on longer term debt going below yields on shorter term debt of the same credit quality. So if you just look at this very simple chart right here, on the y-axis, you have yield, basically what you're yielding for that asset or for that debt. And then on the x-axis, you have maturity, meaning how long is this thing going to come until maturity. So if you remember in my last video with the T-bill video, like the 30-year bonds were significantly less than like the 4 or 8 week T-bill of the same credit quality. So let's take a look at how we even measure this, or, let's look at real life examples of what an inverted yield curve is. So the way they measure this, and this is from the St. Louis Federal Reserve, this is completely updated. Right here, we have the 10-year Treasury constant minus the 2-year Treasury constant. So typically, the 10-year should be yielding more than the 2-year, and when it doesn't, that typically signifies something wrong with the plumbing of the economy or the plumbing of the financial system. There's a reason why these things become inverted. And again, this is why it's such a good indicator of upcoming recessions. So if you look at this black line, this is showing you 0%. Okay, that's right, dead smack in the middle. This line should usually be above. The blue line should be above the black line. And when it goes below it, that is when the yield curve is indeed inverted. So if you take a look at these gray bars, these indicate recessions. And if you look at the thickness of the gray bar, that just shows you how long the recession lasts. So let's take a look at these real life examples. So the yield curve becomes inverted right around, let's say, October of 79. It dips down even lower, but then you have the recession starting in basically January of 80. If you look at this yield curve, it dips down to basically July of 81. Recession starts right around there. If you look at here, you have the yield curve dipping down in March of 89. Recession starts in basically July of 90. This example for the dot-com bubble, yield curve becomes inverted March of 2000. March of 2001, that's when the recession officially starts. This one, November of 2006, the great financial crisis, inverted yield curve happens in November of 06. Financial crisis starts right around November, December of 2007. And then very quickly, we did have a brief inverted yield curve in August of 2019. And then we had cerveza sickness, which was a very short-lived recession, but it was in fact a recession itself. So if I go all the way to today, if I go to February of 2023, we're sitting at negative 0.77. This is the steepest the yield curve has been inverted since basically September of 81. Okay, so you can do the math on that 42 years later. So what does this mean? Are we still dipping? Is the yield curve going to become more inverted? And what happens after this? Okay, so very quickly, let's take a look at this short video to show you how deeply the yield curve has become inverted. So if you take a look at this chart on the y-axis, these are euro dollar futures yield, the percentage. On the x-axis, this is time. Okay, so you can see it starts in 2023, this is where you should be focusing on, and it goes all the way out to 2031. And you can see here, this source is from barchart.com. This was actually done in November of 2022. So if you look at the top right-hand corner, you can actually see the date right here moving. Right now, we're basically in the summer of 2022, and this will go until basically about November of 2022. So this video is a couple months old, but it hammers home the point. If you look at these colors down here in the bottom right, the more red it gets or the more orange it gets, that means the yield curve is becoming more inverted, which you can see right here. So it stops at November 2nd, which is above 5%. We've only gotten more and more deeper since then. So in the next slide, I want to talk to you about the last 8 recessions being preceded by an inversion of the yield curve. But what I want to talk about is the lead when it starts versus when the recession actually starts after the yield curve inverts. Let's take a look at this chart from Charlie Bolello. So you can see right.
All right, and we had it stop because my sponsor catcher caught a sponsored ad coming up. So first thing I'm going to say is yes, I love what Rick has to say. Video inception. That's exactly true. And then you have a video within a video within a video, and then someone's probably going to take this video after it's up and live, or after it's up and stored in the cloud or whatever. Someone's going to take this and put it into another video. So maybe you have to do that, Rick. That'll be your job. But I'm kind of curious before we even get in and talk a little bit more about this subject. Who here in the comments, go ahead and drop it in the chat, feels like we are on the verge, if not already, coming into an active recession? Is anybody feeling it or seeing it or noticing it for themselves with their own pocketbook, with the things that they're focusing on, the things that they're doing, the things that they're spending their money on? What are you guys actually thinking and believing? Because absolutely, he brings up some really, really good points, right? One of the biggest things that we can see, one of the biggest indicators that experts have always looked at is the fact of the inverted yield curve, right? That has always been something that has been a sort of a preliminary indicator that we are coming into different, more difficult times, more economically tight times. So Zachary says it depends on who you ask, but yes, he feels like we are coming into a recession. And yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm not a doom and gloom kind of guy. I'm not saying, hey, it's coming tomorrow or it's here or it's going to be here in 6 months. However, the focus is, are you prepared in the event of when the winter does come? Because we know that it's always coming. Jessica says, myself and all of my friends are feeling it, of all socioeconomic backgrounds. So that's a really good point. Doesn't matter where you're at on the socioeconomic scale, right? If you have a ton of money or you don't have very much money, some people are starting to say that they feel it. Tanya says her shop's foot traffic is down, right? Which is in the gift market. And Angela says she knows it's coming because her high yield savings keeps going up. Interesting. Yeah. And then Michael says he works in HR and he's seeing more layoffs on the horizon. Definitely. I can tell you in the real estate industry, whether it be mortgages or investments or real estate sales, we are definitely seeing the same thing, right? As interest rates have gone up, the amount of transactions, at least for a lot of the real estate industry, have gone down. We have seen record numbers of people, real estate agents, leave the industry or struggling to make it in the industry because their sales in the last few years were maybe record high, numbers that they had never seen before, and now they're struggling to get a deal. They're struggling to find a client. I can tell you that some of the clients that we work with are taking their time to buy houses. They're thinking more about the purchases that they're making. They're being more specific about the type of deal that they're buying, right? In the past, it was like, oh, COVID's just going up so quickly and the homes are appreciating so high. If there's a little bit of work that needs to be done, it's not a big deal because I'll make up for it in equity. Now buyers are being much more conscious about how they spend their money. They walk through a house and they're like, I might have to paint this house. That's going to be an extra $600 to paint these 2 rooms. I don't know if I want to spend that money. So people are being much more conscious and intentional about how they spend their money. Keegan says he thinks it is a correction, not a full recession. We definitely need corrections. Those are a good thing. John says the blue collar have seen it for a while. The upper class, large property owners haven't seen it as close. Brianna says she's new to the real estate game, but she can sense some anxiety from other realtors. Everyone is trying to think outside the box as inventory is low and homes are sitting longer. Yes, that is exactly right. Derek, that ADU guy, says he feels it coming, but jobs data is still really strong. It was the last time. Good times never last and bad times never last. That is so true. And yeah, and I agree 100%. I think COVID really threw a big wrench into the whole thing. And I think Whiteboard Finance, did he call it the cerveza sickness? Was he talking about coronavirus, or was there a real cerveza sickness that I didn't know about? Right. But absolutely. Like COVID was just a big spike. It was an anomaly. It was something that nobody could have seen coming. And kind of like what Derek says, what goes up must come down, right? A lot of that money and that equity and that appreciation that we got from our properties back then was kind of house money to begin with, because it was such a forced and arbitrary inflation. It wasn't like a natural growth that we would normally see in the market. It was injected, like David would say, it was like the Fed injected meth into the economy. And so absolutely, when you have those big highs, you're going to have the big lows as well. So let's go back to this. Let's talk about, when can we expect the economy to officially enter into a recession. So we're going to bring it back to this video really quick and keep it going. So give me 1 second. There we go. Let's see what he has to say.
Right here, the inverted yield curve, which we just talked about. This is the 10-year minus the 3-month. So you can see right here, we have the recession starts. So you have January of 70, December of 73, February of 80, going all the way to March of 20. Right now, we're sitting in these question mark boxes. You can see when the recession ends. You can see if the inverted yield curve was happening before the recession. It's yes for all of them. And then you can see when the first yield curve inversion happened. So this is what I want to talk about in the slide. So for the 70 recession, it actually inverted in November of 65. So this was 50 months. For the 73 recession, you can see it inverted in June of 71, which was 30 months. For the February 80 recession, it actually inverted in August 78. So this is 18 months, so a year and a half. And then the rest are right around a year, year and a half, almost 2.5 years. Then you have 2 years, then you have 1 year. So our first yield curve happened based on this chart, based on the 10-year minus the 3-month. This happened in October of 2022. So if we're sitting in February of 2023, you can do simple math. You have October, November, December, January, February. So we're sitting at about 5 months right here, okay? This is basically telling us that anywhere from 6 to, I don't know, 40 months from now, we're going to see some sort of recession. So I know that isn't, a crazy tight time period, but just based on these numbers, more realistically, it's probably going to be anywhere from 11 to 30 months. So this may happen in 2024. It may happen in 2023. We just don't know. But I think this is an important.
So it's coming, right? Some of us are saying, hey, we see it now. Some of us are saying it's not here yet. Some of us are saying 11 to 30 months, right? Regardless of what your belief is, if it's here now or if it's coming, right? And my guess is it's going to get worse than it is right now. I think a lot of mom and pop owners, a lot of businesses are going to start feeling the struggle first. You're starting to see a lot of bigger companies have to lay people off, and it is going to get more difficult at some point. And so the important thing that we need to recognize is right now we're about 5 months into that inverted curve. And if we go traditionally off of what we've seen in the past, we need to know that we are probably entering into a time of winter. We're entering into a time of economic hardship and a time of economic challenge. Now, I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm not saying that to freak you out. I'm not saying that to be a bad doom and gloom negative person, because I truly believe that there are things we can do to thrive. There are things that we can do to grow. There are things that we can do to improve our situation. There's things that we can do to walk out of a recession, maybe in an even better position than we ever were in the past. But it starts with being smart. It starts with being aware, and it starts with opening your eyes to the fact that the good times don't always last, as Derek said, right? And you have to be prepared for that. One of my favorite things to talk about is Bobby Knight, the great Indiana basketball coach, used to coach Indiana, won a couple national championships. He wrote in his book, one of the hardest things for him to do every single game that they played was at the end of the game, they would take all their key players, their starters out, and have them sit on the bench. And he would tell those players, he'd go walk to them on the bench, and he'd already tell them, say, start thinking about the next game. Start thinking about who we have in our next, who our next opponent is, who the next game is going to be. Because a lot of times what happens is when you know you've won the current game that you're in, you get complacent. You start feeling good about yourself. You start feeling like, yeah, my crap don't stink. I'm pretty good at what I'm doing. I made the most money I ever made. All my properties appreciated, and I look really good, right? But you're not thinking about the next step. You're not thinking about the next game, the next opponent that you have. And sometimes that next opponent is going to be a lot better or a lot more skilled or a lot more scary than the opponent that you're playing right now that you've won against, right? And so one thing that I'm preaching, and I want to remind the people watching this, is you cannot become complacent. You cannot rest on your laurels and say, you know what, I rode the economy and things are going good and I've got all these amazing new skills. No, because you're going to have to adapt. If you were here last week when you were talking with me and David, and we were talking about AI and how quickly that's evolving, how quickly that's changing the game for some careers already. We're seeing copywriters being challenged. We're seeing artists being challenged. It doesn't matter. Technology is changing the name of the game, right? They're changing the rules to the game. And skills are going to be one of the most important things that you're going to need to do to focus on to prepare yourself for the changes that are ahead. You have to be 100% adaptable. You have to be alert, and you have to be aware of the things that are going on. You cannot live and move forward by just sticking your head in the ground. Let's see who else we got here tonight hanging out. We got, oh yeah, there we go. Javier says, let's keep growing no matter what. I love it. Very cool. I agree 1,000,000%. So let's talk a little bit about recessions and what those have to do with us and the things that we have going on. Before we do that, I just wanted to remind you, if you want to come in and chat a little bit tonight, if you want to come in and share maybe some things that you're doing to prepare for the recession, maybe things you're doing to prepare your business for the recession, or to prepare your team for the recession, or things that you're doing to prepare your family or protect your family or protect the wealth that you've built, text the number below, 833-777-0309. Come in and share with the rest of us what you are doing. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We know that things are coming in. We know that a recession is looming at some point. My question for you is, how does that make you feel? If you just sit and think about it for a second, slow down, let all the hype fall down, let all the chatter and the noise quiet down. When you lay your head to rest on your pillow at night, and you think, okay, yeah, there's a recession coming, how does that make you feel? Do you feel ready? Do you feel prepared? Do you feel scared? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel excited? Do you feel like it could be an opportunity? Maybe you feel all of those feelings, which is probably normal, right? We all go through times of like, yes, this could be a really good thing, or, oh man, I'm not ready for this. Regardless of what you're feeling, you need to take some time to think about, what are you going to do to prepare for those changes? Okay. Especially for a lot of us that are maybe wanting to change their career path. Maybe you want to pivot where you're at in life right now. Maybe you're at a pivot point or a crossroads. And you're like, okay, is this the time for me to make the jump into entrepreneurship? Is this the time for me to take that big risk on that business that I wanted to start? Is this the time for me to move across country like I wanted to do, or move out of the country like I wanted to do? Right? Is the opportunity still going to be there? And a big part of what I believe is you can create the opportunity, but you also have to be real with yourself. If you've built the clientele base, if you've built the skills, if you've built the abilities to be able to continually provide and generate income for yourself. So I love this. Yes. So Tanya says it is a challenge, but yes, also an opportunity. And I believe some of the biggest opportunities lie amongst the biggest challenges. If you can solve really, really difficult problems, you will be compensated really, really well. John says, sad for those not prepared, excited as I've been waiting for it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, John. That's why I'm here. That's why I helped David run the Spartan League. That's why a lot of what we talk about is about defensive maneuvers, is about protecting your fortress that you've built. It's about building an infrastructure that is strong and has a sturdy foundation. It's about being alert, having that wartime alertness that things could change, the snap of a twig at any moment, right? And I agree. I'm also sad. My heart hurts for those that aren't prepared, which is why we're out here preaching this message, telling everybody it's coming. Listen, like the White Walkers are coming, as David has said before, right? You have to be ready. You have to have your fortress and your your abilities and your skills and all the things that you need in order to survive. But absolutely, John, it sounds like you've been preparing yourself and you're ready for it. And that's important. That's important that we are all ready for it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump into another video here. This is with Ed Milet, who happens to be at Keller Williams family reunion in Anaheim this weekend, speaking to all my fellow real estate agent friends. So I'm kicking myself in the butt that I didn't get to make it, but that's all right. He's going to be talking actually with Ed. Ed Milet's going to be talking with Tony Robbins, and they're going to be talking a little bit more about the winter that is to come. So let me pop this up really quick. Got to move some things around here. All right, here we go. Winter is coming. There we go.
I'm curious as a friend to ask you this too. Where are we? Like, let's start with a premise where you think we are in the world right now. I've always, I respect people that can win in spring and summer. There's a lot of admiration for that, but I really respect people who can win during the winter or prevail during the winter. Do you feel like we're in that? Are we in winter? The media is telling us we're in the winter. Where are we? Are we in the winter? How long do you think it's going to last? What's your overall sense of things right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky to have guys like Ray Dalio, and Paul Tudor Jones has been I've coached him for 25 years. And so I've got access to some of the smartest minds in the world. It's not my view. And if you study history, we run in cycles. And right now, if you think about times, you and I've talked about this in the past, the generation that grew up in 1910, these guys, by the time they're 20, it's World War, it's, first of all, it's depression. And then 10 years later, it's World War II. And so a generation that was really weak, they're called flappers, kind of like a lot of millennials were originally labeled, or Z generation, became one of the strongest generations in history. And when they go through that winter, we all go through winter at some time in our life. Some people do it 0 to 20. Some people it's 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80. If you live long enough, you're going to live through this time. And winter just means that things are not optimistic. It's like winter can be a beautiful time, but overall the theme is more fear. And that's where we are right now. And it's garnered usually by great economic challenges, and then usually a big war, an international war, not a little war, like a world type of war, this kind of thing that we'll probably see with China. And we're about halfway through that right now. Because if you think about what happened in the winter of, let's say, the Depression and World War II, that 20 years, then these people come back as the heroes and have a springtime where from the 1945 at the end of the war till about 1963 when Kennedy was shot, it was a very optimistic time for America. Then you go through the summer times. That's when there's internal strife. Young people and old people fight over values. That's the 60s and 70s. And then you think about the 80s, 90s, 2000s, more pragmatic, more about economics. So, but now we're in winter. So we probably got 8 or 9 more years of this. That's not something to look bad to, because if you do well in winter, you'll do well for the rest of your life. Of the Fortune 1000 companies, the biggest companies on earth, they could have been started in any season. Right? A recession or depression is a winter, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
And 60% plus were started in a winter time. So if you go to Disney, it was depression. If you go to Hyatt, it was a depression. If you go to Chevron, it was a depression. If you go to Microsoft or Apple or FedExpress, all of those were during a recession. And so if you do well this time, you will do well for the rest of your life. And the thing I want people to realize is, sounds like a long time, but winter's not forever. And always after winter is an incredible springtime of optimism and change and ease. But if you're going to hope you're going to get there in the next year or 2 or 3, you're going to probably be disappointed. So you have to figure out how to get stronger during winter. That's what I'm talking about, being unshakable. If you've got a plan, you've got a tool, when everybody else is freaking, you'll do well. In the Depression, more people became millionaires as a percentage than any time in history. Most people think of John F. Kennedy as the president, but his dad, Joe Kennedy, who funded his campaign, He had $3 million in 1929 when the stock market crashed. He had $62 million 3 years later, which is the equivalent of $3 billion today. Because the opportunities, when people get scared, think of this. When the market's going great in real estate not long ago, what did people want for the house? What it was worth, less or more?
More.
Way more, right? And people are selling their houses with 4 offers and they're all higher and everything else, right? But when all hell breaks loose and all of a sudden it looks like the world's coming to an end, what do people want for their house or their business? Whatever they can get, right? And business is even more so. The greatest opportunity of your life will happen over the next probably 5 years to 6 years, because baby boomers are all getting older and retiring. And about 87% of businesses never get sold. They never go public. They thought their kids are going to take it over, but their kids don't want to run the underwear company, right? So it's like a different situation. There's opportunity, if you know how to run a business, to take on multiple businesses for a song and really have market share. So whether you own a business or not, this is the opportunity for you to grow and expand. It's like winter, you can freeze to death, or you can snowboard and ski and build your next business and be home with your family and have a great time. So I'm made for winter, and my whole thing is help other people prepare for it, because ignoring it or pretending it's not there is not going to work. Hoping is not a strategy. You've got to have tools and strategy, and you got to make yourself better. I mean, everybody talks about inflation. Right now, it's the worst it's been in 40 years, but it's about 7.5% roughly. I mean, the numbers get fudged. Some things are more, some are less, right? But so how do you deal with it? You don't hope the government's going to turn around. You got to participate in your own rescue.
Right.
You have to say to yourself, I got to be more productive. It's that simple. And anybody can be 10% more productive and you'll be ahead of inflation. But, you know, when I met Jim Rohn, my original teacher, I had 4 different fathers. And I remember asking him, we had no money at food at Thanksgiving. You know, that's why I feed 100 million people a year. By the way, we're almost to 1 billion meals, 900.
So Tony Robbins brings up some really good points, right? Coming into it's easy to live in a season that is the spring, right? Or the summer. I know for me personally, if we're talking about like the actual winter or the actual, I guess, ecological times, like I love spring and I love summer. And the reason is because it's easier to do things. It's easier to be productive. Things flow easier in the springtime. Things flow easier in the summertime. The sun shines brighter. The sun shines longer, right? And it's just usually a much more green time as opposed to the winter when things die off, when the circulation of energy in the air is not there. Everything is cold and frigid and dark and dead, and there's just nothing going on. And one of the favorite things that I've liked to do before in the past in the winter is exactly what Tony said. Like, yeah, it sucks, but you can make the best out of it. You can go snowboarding. You can do all these amazing things to make it where you actually enjoy the winter time, because the truth is the winter will not last forever, and that's okay. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what's your perspective on the upcoming winter, right? If you're going to be constantly in survival mode where it's just like, yeah, I just wake up, I get through the day and I go to sleep, and I wake up and I get through the day and I go to sleep, and I'm just trying to let this thing pass, your life is going to be miserable. I can remember one of the first economic winters that I ever went through was the original recession that we had around 07, 08. Right? I had just graduated from college. I had an entry-level job. I wasn't making that much money. I had a one-way commute, so a 2-hour round-trip commute every single day. And I remember the feelings that I was getting at the time. I remember thinking and feeling to myself like, I might not be able to have enough money to put gas in my car. I might not have enough money to be able to even drive to my job. And then I remembered applying for jobs in a bunch of different areas, a different bunch of markets, and I wasn't getting hired anywhere. And I was so afraid to lose my job and lose my income. And the reason was because I didn't have any skills that I could use for any specific industry, right? I had just graduated from college with an English degree. I could potentially be an English teacher, but guess what was happening to English teachers back then? They were getting pink slips. They were getting laid off. They weren't hiring teachers. They were firing teachers. So I felt useless. I felt hopeless in that wintertime. I felt like I have no opportunities in front of me And at that time, I actually felt like I kind of played the victim mindset, right? And that's really your opportunity that you have in the upcoming recession or the upcoming winter, whenever that's going to be, is thinking about what's your perspective going to be going into that? Are you going to look at it as a time and an opportunity for you to build a new life, for you to build a better life, for you to build a better financial fortress? Or are you going to look at it as like an opportunity where, not an opportunity, as a thing that is happening to you, an event? Because in one of those circumstances, you have control. In the other, you don't have any control, right? When things are constantly happening to you, you lose all control. You lose all ability to build the life or be the person that you want to be. And so my question is, what's your perspective going to be? Right? For me, I had to shift that back in 08, 09 when I was like 24 years old or however old I was back then. I had to change from, oh my gosh, this is so scary, this fear-based mindset, to what can I control right now? What things can I do? How can I put myself in a better position to succeed? For some of you, it may be getting more certifications in something. Maybe it's going to a coding boot camp where you go get hired by a tech company because you've learned JavaScript or something like that. Maybe you go learn a new skill set in sales, in technology sales, or something different than you're doing right now. Maybe you're in an industry that's defunct and that is going to be replaced by Chat GPT at some point, and you need to think hard about how you're going to pivot or what you're going to do differently, right? So how are you preparing, but also how are you viewing the upcoming recession? And that's an important thing to think about. I love how he says, in winter, you can do one of two things. You can either freeze to death or you can get stronger. And the good news is, even if we're not in a recession right now, even if we're not in winter right now, you can start getting stronger. You can start preparing yourself. You can put yourself in a position to succeed. And I'm curious, type it in the chat box. What kinds of things are you guys doing right now to make yourself stronger for the winter? I can tell you a few things that I'm doing right now that I've done already and that we talk about in the Spartan League. You go to SpartanLeague.com. You can find out more information, but we talk about it every Monday and Thursday night. Is accountability and discipline. Accountability with what, Kyle? Discipline with what, Kyle? Accountability with my budget. Accountability with my finances. I have gone in and stripped down a lot of unnecessary expenses so that I can prepare. We talked about last night on the Spartan League, there's this thing going around where people are like, oh yeah, you gotta, can't spend money on Starbucks, and that's dumb. If you count all you're tracking all your budget and you're checking all your things and you're cutting coupons. That's not dumb. Dumb people say that it's dumb because yes, the economy brought them to a certain level and they thought they made all this money and that they were so amazing, but it wasn't them, right? It was appreciation. It was the market. It was the economy. And so they got lazy, just like a lot of those Bobby Knight players. They got complacent. They're getting complacent. They're complacent right now. I've done the opposite. I've doubled down on my accountability. I've doubled down on my tracking. I've doubled down on looking at my budget, making sure that I'm not spending any unnecessary money, that I'm not frivolously spending my money. I'm starting to get into meal preparation now. And then physically, I've got myself in the gym. I'm working out. I'm doing a lot of things to prepare myself for winter so that my mind is in a good place. My body is in a good place. My heart is in a good place. And my finances are in a good place. Let's see what some of the other people have been doing as well. So I love it. So Brianna says winter makes her want to invest in real estate again. Very nice. Yeah. Angela says working on her financial fortress, but also looking forward to learning how to thrive in the winter. That's very good. Keegan says don't play the victim. Very good. That's a great start. I mean, we should just all start with that, right? You're coming into tough times. Things are happening to you. Things are happening around you. Things out of your control are happening. We can't control what the economy does. Right? I mean, it's kind of like climate change. We can maybe do some things to control it, but we can't control it. We can't control really like who's elected. Yes, we can vote and we can do that kind of stuff. But a lot of times, like individually, we can't control those things. We can't control the ups and downs of the market. But we can control the things in our life. We can control our mindset. We can control our perspective. And if you're looking at it from a victim's mindset, you're always going to be stuck. If you're looking at it from a perspective of this is happening to me and woe is me and my life is hard and I can't believe this, and then you move into fear and you're just always being controlled by your own thought processes, you're never going to be able to take any positive steps to do the things that you want to do. You're never going to be able to thrive. You're never going to be able to step out there and take confident steps or leaps of faith because you're always going to be stuck feeling like, oh, woe is me. Things are happening and it's so hard. Mike says he started 3 businesses and made the most money he's ever made during COVID. It's a mentality of abundance. That's a great mentality to have. Absolutely. Brianna says saying no more. You might need to say no to Starbucks more. You might need to say no to going out to the movies. You might need to say no to going on those extravagant trips. You might need to say no to things that waste your time or steal your energy or steal your joy, right? Let's see. Test out our maker stay concept in a down market so we can duplicate. I'd be curious to hear what more of that is. Javier says spending all his money in education. That's good. Yeah. Take this time to learn, right? Don't spend all your money on education. I wouldn't recommend that because there's a lot of good information you can get right here from Ed Milet podcast, YouTube University. There's so much good information out there. The YouTube lives that we're doing right here, right? This is free content that David and I and the rest of our team are putting out every single week. Keegan's being smart by house hacking. Very nice. Rhonda says she loves what I'm saying. This is our opportunity to clean up in excess the budgets and add to our skill set. That is exactly what I'm saying. Jessica says she deleted her Amazon app and on her phone, had to cut back. That's a great thing to do. The thing I would recommend you do on top of that, Jessica, is if you use Google Chrome as your internet browser, there is I believe it's called ICE or something like that. Look it up. It's a Google Chrome add-on that basically whenever you go to buy something on Amazon, instead of clicking the buy now button or the add to cart, you push it, it creates this layer on top of that. And you basically click that and it puts it on ice and you can set it to 24 hours, 48 hours. So that way you can't add it to your cart. You can't check out until the time is expired. Then you go in the next day. And if you still want it, great, you buy it. But if you're like, yeah, actually, I don't need it. It helps cut down on those impulsive purchases. Mike says he's investing himself. He's in the Spartan League, the DGT Mastermind. Good. He's in the BP Rookie Boot Camp doing some very cool things. So it's important to focus and understand what is your perspective. Are you coming from a fear-based mindset? Because most of your fears are actually going to be lies. They're not going to be the truth. Or are you coming from a victim mindset? You just are waiting for somebody to come rescue you. You're waiting for someone to come and make your situation better. Or are you coming from a growth mindset? One that says, you know what? I can control the destiny that I have. I can control the things around me, and I can make the right decisions. I can make smart decisions. I can make wise decisions to put myself in the right modality or the right mindset moving forward. The last thing I want to say, and I want to remind you, is that you have to participate in your own rescue and not depend on anyone to come save you. I think the sooner you come to the realization and the recognition that the government is not always going to bail you out, right? People in your life may not always bail you out of your situation, but you can go get a shovel and you can start digging, right? You can go get a hammer and you can start swinging. You can start building. You can start doing the things that you need to do, but it starts with building a little bit of confidence in yourself. It starts with making those small decisions, those small, strong decisions that are going to put you in the right direction for your life, right? And a lot of that might be physically based, spiritually based, mindfully based, financially based, literally looking at the entire perspective of your life and making sure that you're living each day to the fullest, right? And each day to your absolute best ability. So, you know you're in a winner, but you want to get stronger. How do you do this in the face of fear? So I'm going to fast forward a little bit on this video that we were watching. We're going to watch a couple minutes and talk about that. Here we go.
you get asked this all the time. I do as well. So someone's listening to like, okay, I'm inspired. I've got some perspective, but I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I've got real fear. What techniques or strategies would you say to somebody if they're being honest? Anybody hears this, winter's going to be 5 years, 7 years, 8 years. That's a scary thing for anybody to hear. And so what would you say to someone with fear?
Well, you don't have to manage. You got to stop thinking of yourself as managing your circumstances and remind yourself that you're a creator of your life experience. And so when it's winter, first of all, it doesn't mean every night's a bad day. Every day's a bad day. Every dark day. I live here in Florida. It's 78 degrees and it's, winter, right? It's really nice. So where you are, what you decide to do, it's all varying in terms of the levels of winter, as we just talked about. If you're in Africa right now without food, it's a very different experience. But I think the other part for people really is, you got to understand there's two choices. There's fear and there's faith. And as simplistic as that sounds, I ask people, what's the difference? And they get confused. And I said, it's really simple. They're both made up. No one knows for sure what the future looks like. And when I say the 7 or 8 years, it's not all just tough economic times. There's going to be a confrontation with China. Maybe there'll be a cyber war. Maybe someone will turn off your electricity. There's zero question we're on target for that. If anybody wants to get a better understanding, they can read some of Ray Dalio's work on the changing world order and understanding what's happened over 1,000 years of history. But the point of the matter is, it's not all dark. That's number one. But number two is, what's the difference between fear and faith? They're both imagination, but fear is imagination undirected. It's like weeds, just grows automatically. Faith is you decide to be certain, you take action, you follow through. There's no guarantee of anything. There's no guarantee. I mean, people run around with a mask and they walk outside and get hit by a truck, right? It's just like we think somehow that we have a way to bulletproof ourselves. What we do is increase our probability. And what you really want to do is, so you have no fear of the future, is you want to add to your skills and your ability, including your emotional fitness. I don't mean intellectual fitness. I don't mean, when people talk emotional intelligence, it's a nice thing. But the reason I use fitness is you can be a smart person and not be smart, right? You can have great capacity and not use it. So emotional intelligence is a capacity, but fitness is a state of readiness. You and I are both fitness buffs, right? So it's like we train ourselves so when a challenge happens, we've got the strength and the power to deal with that challenge, whether it be psychological, physical, or anything else. So you got to learn to direct yourself and train yourself to have certainty. And that's a huge part, as you know, that I do with all my seminars, because most people are living in uncertainty. What makes somebody a leader is they find certainty in a world that's uncertain.
Yes.
Even if they're not smart, some people follow somebody just because they're certain. They're like, they know what's going on. When people are uncertain, they look for somebody who's certain. Well, if you can develop that certainty, not based on enthusiasm, but based on a clear plan of how you can take advantage of winter, where winter becomes your best season, then the fear will disappear. But you've got to train your nervous system on a daily basis, because here's the problem today. The media are not bad people. They're good people, but they're doing their job. And what are they rewarded for? Catching eyeballs.
Yep,
it's
clicks.
like, people say we're an information society. I always tell people that's such bullshit. The information society died a decade ago. There's too much information. We're drowning in information. We're starving for wisdom. And we all know when it comes to the media, they get paid by getting your attention. And so if there's a commercial comes on, your child may die of drinking water, film at 11, people tend to look in because of the negative bias, the survival bias of the human brain. Or clickbait. What is clickbait? You click on it, the article doesn't even match it. But once you click, they get paid. So today, the media is not designed to inform or educate you. It's designed to startle you. If I startle you, you respond. Well, most people, that follows them. It's in their pocket. It's around them all the time. Now, after COVID, where people thought they're going to die by breathing, and now we're finding out a lot of different truths that we didn't know back then. And, then you throw on top of that an economy that looks incredibly difficult. Most people alive don't remember or never experienced inflation. I started my business when interest rates were 18%. It was 18% right now. People are marching on the White House. You know what I mean? They're like freaking out because it's 7.
Yeah.
So we're in a place where people have so much unknowns. So what you want to learn is take chaos and understand what's really going on. You and I have talked about this before. I've got 5 kids and 5 grandkids. I think about these jobs disappearing in the next 15 years, and how do I prepare my kids and grandkids? You do it by understanding those 3 skills you and I have talked about. 1, anybody that's the best in the world at something has pattern recognition power. They see things other people see as chaos, and they go, no, this has happened before. This is how it works. And they're allowed to anticipate where it's going instead of reacting. It's like playing a video game against the child. The child always wins. It's not because they're younger or faster. It's because they go boom, 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 because they played this game so many times. You shoot and you're dead in 10 seconds. Your next turn's after 30 minutes of their play, right?
Yeah, right.
So they know where all the bad guys are. They can anticipate, not react.
Mhm.
Well, losers react, leaders anticipate. So if I can recognize patterns, if I'm good in investment, I recognize investment patterns. If I'm good in business, I know business patterns. And if I'm good in my own life, I start realizing, there's patterns that get me angry and patterns that get me excited. And I learn to direct my own patterns. The second step is learning to use those patterns. And the third step of mastery is when you start creating them. That's what a great musician, that's what a great business person does. They recognize patterns, so they're not reacting. They use them, and then they start creating their own. And those three skills,
Very good.
well, if you get those three skills, it won't matter what jobs change. You'll be a dominant player because you'll see what other people don't see. It's the fear comes from the unknown. So that's why I'm a student of history. When you study history, you can say what's happening right now happens about every 80 years like clockwork.
Yep.
And it's you can read 1,000 years of Roman history and see about every century the same cycle. And once you know that, it gives you an unshakable feeling. You go, okay, I know what this is, and I know how to take advantage of this, and I don't need to be fearful of this. But then you still have to manage your mind, and you still have to make sure you cut off the media's influence, because some people are saturated in that. And whatever you feed in your brain is what you're going to experience.
I want to ask you about that too. By the way, just want to remind everybody, because you could be
Before we before we break this part down, which, man, such good stuff. Type in the chat, who do you think has the better jawline? Would you say Ed Milet or Tony Robbins? I mean, Ed Milet, let me just pop this back up here really quick. I mean, he's got a pretty good looking jawline right there. I mean, that's like some skills, but I feel like Tony Robbins got a pretty decent one as well. So out of curiosity, let me know who you think has the better jawline. But for real, more specifically, there's some really good nuggets out of this discussion and this topic. And I'm kind of curious who right now is feeling a little bit of fear in their life, especially with the upcoming and looming recession. I think it's kind of an oxymoron of what he said, and he understood that was an oxymoron, that you need to train yourself to be certain, because the truth of the matter is, we live in a world of uncertainty. He made the analogy, like you could walk out with a mask on and get hit by a truck and you could be gone like that, right? And for me, somebody who previously worked in a career as a speech pathologist, and I would work in the ICUs, I would work in the burn units, I would work in the trauma units, and seeing the things that happened to people that were so unexpected. They didn't expect to have a stroke. They just had a stroke. It happened to them, right? People that had accidents happen to them, or car accidents, or just illnesses that they couldn't have seen coming, right? They didn't plan for those things in their life, yet they happened to them. So for me, I was actually really fortunate to work in the hospital environment for a long time, because I would see things that would be thrust upon people that they didn't know were coming. There's just so much uncertainty that we have in our life, yet we walk around like we assume we're going to be around forever. We're going to live forever, or the economy is going to be good forever, or our relationships are going to be good forever, or the people that we manage and that we lead are going to be there forever. We assume that things are going to be the same forever, right? And the only the only certainty that we can have in life is the fact that we live in a world of uncertainty. I had a coach recently tell me it's kind of funny, because we will drive down the highway at barreling speeds of 70, 80, 90 miles per hour, right? And the only thing that's dividing us between the other cars on the other side doing the same exact thing, coming within mere inches of our own car, are these little golden stripes going down the middle of the highway. And we just assume, okay, that is our certainty. That is our little safety net. We feel safe because of those little stripes. When in reality, no, man. I mean, all it takes is just one little turn, right? And all of a sudden, boom, your life is completely changed forever, or someone else's life is completely changed forever, right? And the only certainty that we have in this life is the fact that we live in a life of uncertainty. Things are going to happen to us that we didn't know were going to happen. Things are going to happen to us that we just didn't see coming. Or maybe things are going to happen to us that maybe we did see coming, but we stuck our head in the sand and we didn't address those things in our life. And so what I like about what he says is winter can actually become your best season, right? And you can train that fear to disappear. And that's probably one of the most important things, because I'm not just talking about economic winters, right? There's going to be other winters in your life, and there's probably been other winters in your life, but you can train the fear to disappear. You can train yourself to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You can train your body. You can train your mind. You can train your spirit, in a sense, to be okay with being uncomfortable. I honestly believe the sooner we can get it normal with being uncomfortable. I think that's why like ice baths are so big, right? And cold plunges are so big, and Tough Mudders and CrossFit and all these things that people are doing, because at some point we've all recognized there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's a lot of uncomfortable things in the world. And the sooner I get used to doing things that are uncomfortable, that are outside of my personality, outside of my comfort zone, outside of the normal things that I do, the more that when the scary things happen to us in life, we'll be prepared, right? When the unexpected events pop up and occur, we will have been better prepared, because we were preparing our minds, we were preparing our bodies, we were preparing our finances, we were preparing our spirit for the fact that, listen, I know something bad is coming. And I can tell you, like, I had a hard time, like when I was in my mid-20s, right, and kind of going through the economy and trying to figure out how my life was going to come together. I had a really big eye-opening, awakening time of my life where I realized really quickly, like, yeah, my childhood is over. Like the easy being protected, growing up in suburbia, and life is not easy. Life is not hard. Not easy. The financial journey is not easy. Right? There's no such thing as easy money. And if there is, you're probably doing something illegal, or you're doing something wrong, or you're taking advantage of something, and you'll get what you have coming. Right? And I remember one of my mentors at the time in my mid-20s sat me down and he said, you know what, Kyle, the times, there's definitely good times in life, but I'm going to tell you, there's going to be more bad times. And I was like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want that noise. And he's like, I'm telling you, there's going to be more hard times, but it's the pain, it's the hard times that make the good times that much sweeter. It's the pain and the hard times that make you that much stronger, right? But if you're continually trying to push away the pain, if you're continually trying to avoid the pain, or close your eyes to the pain, or hide from the pain, it's just going to be much more painful, and you're just going to be being dragged along the entire time. Right. But if you embrace the pain, and by the way, I'm not a masochist. I'm not somebody who says you just need pain in order to get better. No, I believe that if you operate in a positive mindset, if you operate in a abundance mindset, you can grow. But when the pain is there, when the pain is present, you have to embrace the pain. You have to embrace the resistance, because it's resistance that makes you stronger. Right. That's why people go to the gym and lift weights. They push these heavy weights to create resistance, and is resistance that builds muscles, right? If it wasn't that hard to work out, everybody would be walking around looking really strong, right? Or as David says, everybody would have a six-pack, but not everybody has a six-pack, and you need resistance, but you have to embrace it. You can't run away from it. You can't run away from the pain, right? So you have to recognize, I'm going to make the best out of the pain that I have in my life right now. I'm going to make the best out of the situation that I'm being faced with. And maybe it's the fact that you lost your job. Maybe it's the fact that you have a ton of student loan debt, or a ton of credit card debt, or a ton of, maybe relationship issues, or friendship issues, or maybe you just graduated from college and you're kind of going through an identity crisis, and you're trying to figure out, I don't know what to do. I thought I wanted, to be a school teacher, and now I don't, right? I thought I wanted to be an attorney or a doctor, and I spent all this money on it. Now I don't. That's okay. It's okay that you're going through that. It's okay that you're facing some pain. It's okay that you have questions. It's okay that you're in a winter right now. But what are you going to do to face that winter? What are you going to do to make yourself stronger, to mold yourself, to pivot, to change, to do whatever you need to do so that your coming weeks or your coming months are going to be stronger? So I love what he says. Winter can actually become your best season. And I think that's like a powerful statement, because a lot of us, when we hear the word winter, I know when I hear the word winter, like physically, like the actual like winter season, I'm just like, when's it going to be over? Instead of like, no, this can be my best season, right? It's going to be hard to make money. I'm going to have to work twice as hard than I did during COVID or during the spring. Or it's going to be so much harder to build a business. The interest rates are so high, right? You can say every single little excuse, but if you're looking at it, no, this can be my best season. This can be my opportunity to serve more people. This can be my opportunity to grow at a faster pace than I ever saw. In those opportunities, in those modalities, in those mindsets, that's when you have the potential to grow. Let's see. Who else we got here hanging here? So Elisa says she hates Ed's facial hair. Ugh. Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm going to pop it back up here just for fun. It's kind of like smooth but rough. It doesn't have like that full on, like stubble type deal going on. Angela says she's on Team Ed. Okay, good for you. He just got a really nice jawline. I will give him that. David says, zero fear. It's a contagion. I don't pick up. Twice daily meditation of 15 years has contributed to that greatly. Good for you, David. Meditation is really hard to do. It is something that is, I've tried. I love how they call it a practice, right? I'm practicing meditation because it really is practice. It's something that I'm sure you get better at over time, but it is such a great way to tap into creativity, to tap into a positive mindset. So Adriana says, I have that fear, but mine is backed by the fact that I have been in literal survival mode for the last going on 2 years. It's only just started to even out for me financially. So let me jump in here and say something really quick. Okay, here's what I want to say, Adriana. I want to say that it is okay that you have struggled financially. I also want to come in and I want to say it's okay that you've been in survival mode. Okay, so number one, don't beat yourself up. And the fact that you're here, I doubt that you are beating yourself up. But if you felt shame, if you felt continual fear, if you are being tough on yourself, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have to be. But this is your opportunity to shift and change your mindset to something that is going to be different coming into winter. And here's the thing. I don't want you to be afraid that if you feel like you're just coming out of a winter and you're like, oh crap, now I'm entering into a new winter, that's okay. Just know that this is going to make you a lot stronger. And the other question I would have for you, Adriana, and ask yourself is, who were you 2 years ago versus where you are today? Is the Adriana that we have in front of us a stronger Adriana, a more confident Adriana than what we had 2 years ago? And I hope I'm saying your name correctly. But I want you to know that it's okay that you had that fear, and it's okay that you've had to go through what you've gone through. But now, what are the steps that you can take in your life to get yourself out of that literal survival mode? Because that is not fun. And there are people that literally live in survival mode all the time, right? They live paycheck to paycheck, or maybe they're not even living paycheck to paycheck because they can't afford and they can't wait for the next paycheck to come. I get it. I've been there before. It is a scary position to be in, right? I was in a negative position. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Right. And I was putting so much money on credit cards to live the lifestyle that I wanted. Right. And then I had to get myself to the point where I actually had to drastically downsize. And that wasn't comfortable. Right. And I had to live on beans and rice, as Dave Ramsey might say. Right. And so it's okay if you're in survival mode. I would give you a couple things too. Get yourself around people that can support you, that can keep you accountable, that you can keep them accountable, that you can learn with, that you can grow with, and keep coming to these things as well. Winter is the best time to start a business. Everything is cheaper. Absolutely. Great opportunities in that time, right? Great opportunities in winter to find a new market too, right? Like everybody's talking about all the jobs that Chat GPT and AI is going to replace, but I'm curious, like, what kind of new jobs are going to be made? I'm on some kind of algorithm right now on TikTok where all they keep showing me is all the money I can make using AI. Some of it's a little gimmicky, so I would say be careful. Just like the crypto thing, when everybody's like, you could be a crypto millionaire overnight, just put it all in Bitcoin, put it all in Dogecoin, and then look what happened there, right? A lot of people lost a lot of money. A lot of people lost a lot of like their kids' education through that. So I want you to think, I want you to be careful, be wise, be intelligent, be savvy when it comes to some of these new fads that can come through AI. Don't dump all of your life savings into this one new thing. But as John says, absolutely, there could be some really good opportunities ahead as well. So David says, meditation is made easy when one finds a master teacher and finds out how effortless it can be. Many myths out there about what meditation is supposed to be. It's kind of like life, right? I feel like the same thing in life too. There's a lot of myths and there's a lot of voices in the ecosphere of like, this is how you do real estate, or this is how you do personal finance, or this is how you do life, or this is how you do relationships, right? Everybody's got their opinion on how things are done, and what things are supposed to be, but kind of figuring out, okay, what's the best method and modality. By the way, that YouTuber Isaac, he took off the 24. Interesting. Says 52 people are watching, but only 15 likes. Let's all take the time to like the video. Yeah, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. Hit the subscribe button as well. Hit the notification button. All of that keeps these things running, right? It keeps us coming back on a regular basis, and makes this for a really fun and exciting and engaging conversation. So for the people that are here, I really do appreciate you coming in and hanging out. If you're on the West Coast, it's 9:15 at night. If you're on the West Coast, it's 6:15. Your tummy's probably grumbling. You're probably a little hungry, but you're here and you're hanging out and you're talking about life. You're talking about personal finances. You're talking about real estate. You're talking about making your life better. What better way to hang out? I know a lot of you could be doing a lot of cool things with your friends and your family, but you're here tonight. Maybe you're surrounding yourself with your friends and your family, and you're watching this. If you're doing that, I appreciate it. Make sure you share this. David and I are wanting to continue to get the word out to the world about what's coming up. We don't want people to not be prepared, or to not be surprised. We want them to be prepared for the difficulties that are coming up, because we know that it's going to happen. Here's the other thing I liked about what he was talking about, was this concept of being in a constant, actually, let me just real quick pull up what Adriana had to say. She said, "Thanks, Kyle. Yes, I'm 100% stronger than I was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was continually being told I would never survive being without a particular person." That is very, very strong and powerful for you to see. And I want you guys to all realize that regardless of what winter you're going through, you are going to come through on the other end a stronger person no matter what. Assuming you didn't stick your head in the sand, assuming you didn't just play the victim mindset, assuming you didn't put yourself in a position where you just wanted other people to save you and rescue you from your difficulty, your financial situation, your challenges, or whatever. Because at the end of the day, it really is up to you. If you're stuck in a job or a career and you hate it, well, if you're still there and you've been there for 5 or 6 years and you still complain about the same boss or the same coworkers that you have, or how toxic of an environment it is, and how it's not the best position for you to be able to grow, it's not the best growth path, it's kind of your fault for still staying there. And I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't mean to like say anything that's divisive, but I mean, it's true. You could put yourself in a better position. You could build the skills or build your resume to a certain degree to where you can go find a job that is more healthy and more happy. And one thing I want to say is, like, if you're not happy with your job and you're afraid, you don't want to leave because you don't want to, you don't want to lose a certain like amount of income. For me personally, I would probably trade income for job satisfaction any day. I've gone down that road before where I chose jobs specifically for income or benefits or pension or whatever, and ignored the fact that it was a bad or toxic environment. It's not worth it. It's not worth the extra money that you're going to be making, unless it's like millions of dollars. Maybe you would consider it, but honestly, don't put yourself in that position. Don't be afraid to maybe take a temporary price reduction. Maybe you just change the way that you spend your money. Maybe you just change the way that you track and organize your money so that you can afford taking a little bit of price reduction and having a better quality of life. It's not a bad thing. One more thing, going back to what Adriana said, I found my way out of there with nothing to my name, clawed my way up to where I am through massive instability. I also found someone who got me here and is helping me figure out financial literacy. Good for you. And now you're surrounding yourself in talks like this, right? Where we talk about financial literacy. We talk about making sound decisions. We talk about being wise with your spending and being wise with your investing. So I have to say, Adriana, I am very inspired by your story, and I'm inspired from where you're at. If there's one thing I would say is don't stop. Don't stop, right? I love what Drake says. I think it was Drake. He says, started from the bottom, now we're here, right? I don't know all the lyrics to the song, but hopefully he talks about in the song that now we're here. Now we got to keep going. Don't stop. Keep going. Keep moving forward. Keep growing. Keep doing the things that you can do, because as long, this is an Andy Mineo song, right? As long as there's breath in my lungs, I'm not done. So don't stop. As long as you're breathing, you got to keep going. You got to keep growing. You got to keep doing the things that you're going to do. So sorry, I got a little preachy there, but it's exciting for me, and I like to talk about this. So what he was talking about, yeah, more Drake, please. Yes. I don't know like all the songs, but I know a few. So one of the things that I like about Tony Robbins and what he talks about is this constant state of fight or flight, right? I want you guys to be real with yourself. Like, are you in a constant state of anxiety or in a constant state of peace? And I think if most of us were real, we would say that we're in a constant state of chronic anxiety. And that's just kind of the world we live in today. And it's not a scary thing. It's not a bad thing. But you got to try to find the peace in your life, right? Because the doom scrolling, right? You can open up your phone right now and look at 99 articles out of 100 that are all going to have these catchy headlines that are designed to put you in a state of fear. They're designed to put your croc brain in a state of fear where you are scared, where you are fearful, because fearful things get the clicks. And when you get the clicks, you get the eyeballs. And when you get the eyeballs, the advertisers are happy, right? Because they're the ones that are really creating a lot of this. And so, like, you can see, we try, like, when we choose our YouTube titles, we try to do ones that are less clickbaity. We try to do ones that are more focused on positivity. Like you can see today, it's conquering your fears and thriving in a recession, right? We're not trying to say, oh my gosh, it's all doom and gloom. And we're not trying to just get clickbaity stuff, right? We are way over caffeinated. We are way too stimulated, right? TikTok has changed our minds, and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels to where we just want the short information and we want it quick. And we're too Red Bulled out and too focused on all these crazy things that we're living in just this constant state of agitation. And then you layer onto that all the other stimulation and discussions that we have in life and how loud the voices are in our lives. It's crazy. My mom and my dad are native Californians. They moved out to they moved out to a little town outside of Des Moines in Iowa. And talk about moving from crazy California to slower Iowa. Every time they come back to California, They're like, oh my gosh, it's so stressful. All the traffic, all the craziness, right? The same thing kind of happens in our minds a little bit, right? We just kind of get used to the craziness of the traffic and the California and the stuff that's happening in our brains, that finally when we get a vacation, when we get a little quiet, we get a little peace, it feels good. If anything, it might feel a little anxiety provoking because you're used to it being so crazy. But then when you go back to the crazy, you're like, oh man, yeah, I forgot how crazy it was. How did I live in that constant state of mind? But then after a while, you just get sucked into it again. And that's why you have to have those daily practices, those daily things, those rituals, those routines that you do on a regular basis to keep you in a state, in a much more clear state. Because if you live in that flight or fight, fear-based mindset all the time, it's not sustainable for the long term, right? If you're like Adriana and you were in survival mode in whatever area of your life, your job, your finances, your friendships, whatever, if you're in survival mode all the time, it's not sustainable. You're not going to be able to live based off of that for very long because you're just going to burn out. You're going to get sick. You're going to get tired, and you're not going to live a life that is thriving. Right. And so you got to have those daily practices to take care of yourself. And meditation is one of those, working out is one, eating healthy, putting yourself in turning off the doom scrolling, turning off Google News, getting yourself out of the forums, getting yourself out of the negative and toxic things that you have going on, and focusing on the things that bring you peace, focusing on the things that bring you clarity, doing the things that bring you peace, doing the things that bring you clarity, right? Serving one another, helping people to grow, right? That's what we love about the Spartan League Mastermind, is we are there to help each other grow. We had a beautiful, beautiful session last night where we came in and we started to just talk about saving money. That was what the topic was. How can we save money better? How can we do these things? And it turned into this amazing organic conversation where all the members were supporting each other, talking about imposter syndrome and living your best life now, and getting over that hump of imposter syndrome. And that's the thing. You got to get yourself around a community of people. Maybe it's friends at your, at your school, or maybe it's people in your church or whoever, but get yourself around a positive community that's going to focus on good things, and get yourself away from the people that are talking about negative things. Get yourself away from people that all they want to do is talk about how bad the politics are, or talk about how bad the environment is, or just anything that's just negative. And those people in your life, and you probably have somebody in your mind. You're like, yeah, I should probably reduce the amount of time that I spend around that person, because all he does is complain about about how bad the weather is, right? So get yourself out of that fight or flight state and get yourself into a position of peace, right? And he talks about, what is fear? Fear is letting your mind run uncontrolled like a weed, just going crazy, going left, going right, going everywhere, right? And that's kind of how our lives are. It's like we're the chicken that got its head cut off and we're just running all over the place, right? But instead have direct intent and purpose. And how do you do that? Well, Tony Robbins says you do that by living a life of faith, which is kind of cool. Like, you wouldn't think that faith would be the antidote to, or the antidote? I don't know what the word is. You wouldn't think that it would be the solution to fear. But what is faith? He says it's deciding on the certainty of a clear plan. And sometimes that certainty is just having the certainty in yourself, or the certainty in God, or the certainty in your friends, or whatever. But having certainty and knowing that when you take that leap, or you take that action, or that step in the direction that you're supposed to do, having the faith that it's going to work out regardless if it was a good decision or a bad decision. I think one of the most important things that if you take away from tonight, it's to recognize that indecision is probably the worst decision you could ever make. Indecision is actually a decision, okay? Sometimes you just have to make a decision and then let the outcome be what it may, all right? Because it's like if we were to make an analogy to talk about sports again, right? When you get the basketball and you take the shot, you are making the decision to take a shot. Some shots you make, some shots you miss. But if you don't take any shots at all, guess what? None of those are going to go in. You're never going to make a shot that you can't take. So you might as well just get out there and start taking a bunch of shots, right? You want to take smart shots. I'm an old basketball coach. I don't want my players just chucking up threes that are contested. I don't want them chucking up threes that are 70 feet out, right? I want them taking good shots. I want them taking smart shots, and I want them taking wise shots. But I also don't want them passing up shots that look good. And you have to think about the same in your life. Where are you maybe not taking some shots? Where are you maybe missing, or I'm sorry, where are you missing the opportunity to take a shot, right? Because sometimes if you're just like, I got the ball, but I'm scared and I don't want to shoot it, well, that's not going to get you anywhere. So you got to take some shots along the way. Let's see here. Going back to the comments. So David, back on meditation, says, beginning a daily meditation practice takes one out if that chronic low-level fight or flight or freeze state. Yeah. So I've actually heard there's actually a fourth F that I've heard. So there's fight, flight. So fighting, right, is like you get into this mode and all you do is attack. So you got fight or flight, which means you're running away from that thing you're afraid of, right? Oh, I don't want it. I'm just going to avoid the pain. And then there's the freeze, where you just do the indecision like I just talked about. And then the fourth, I recently heard about this, is fawn. Like you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to fold and just like do whatever the bully wants me to do, or whatever. I'm going to give in to the fear. I'm going to just people please, and I'm just going to do whatever. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Okay, as we wrap up this evening, I'm having a lot of fun. This is a really good topic, and I hope that a lot of people are focusing and figuring out what they are going to do. But the last thing I want to ask as we wrap it up is, how do you build yourself up so that you can take action? We talked a little bit about meditation. That's one of the ways that you can build yourself up. But how can you actually build yourself up financially? How can you build yourself up mindset-wise? How can you build yourself up physically so that when it comes, when it happens, when winter is upon you, when the challenges of life or the obstacles that you face are in your face, how can you be ready? What are the things you can do to be ready? That's what we're going to talk about right now. So I'm going to go back to our good boy, Ed Milet. And Tony, we're going to fast forward it here just a little bit and get this started.
Higher level achievers. They're preparation freaks. You and I am prepared today. You're prepared. But they have a lower threshold of what they think they need to know in order to step into action.
That's true.
Right? And so how does one build that? Because there's a lot of people going, okay, I got to overcome my fear. I got to move my physiology. I've got to anchor the right emotional state in. But man, I'm just ill prepared. And you may be, that may be true.
Yeah.
But you think you have to be so prepared that you never move, you never take action. And now it'll be 2024 and we'll be on another call and you're going to want to get going again. So how does one build that resourceful, aggressive, whatever you want to call it, nature to go when they don't know everything?
Well, you got to first see what's preventing it. What's preventing it is everyone has the same two deepest fears. All humans. I don't care. I've dealt with the greatest athletes in the world, multi-billionaires, guys in prison, you name it, kids. We all are afraid we're not enough at some point. If you feel like you're not young enough, strong enough, old enough, mature enough, funny enough, rich enough, something enough for someone who you really want to be enough for, it brings up an even deeper fear, which is, if I'm not enough, I won't be loved. And love is the oxygen of the soul. If a baby is not kinesthetically loved, they develop what's called failure to thrive syndrome. We are a unique species in that love is our competitive advantage. If you're born as a baby and there's no mother or father there, you're a lizard, you live. But if you're a child, you die. We need each other. We have a long dependency on each other. Some of the longest animals other than primates are like whales that are dependent for a year. But 5 years, 10 years, these years, 35 years, some people are still dependent, on their parents to make sure things work for them.
It's a great fear of mine with my kids.
But the point is that that fear that we're not enough is what's getting in the way. And you don't get over it, you get beyond it. And the way you get beyond it is you just train yourself. And as you just said, that's why in the seminars, it isn't just the content. It's putting you in a state where the content can land. And when you put yourself in that state on a regular basis, those flows happen. Now, you want daily practices as well. So, every day I've got a variety of daily practices, but one of those things, I jump in freezing cold water every day, I think but I don't do it because I like it or I want it. There's never a day I look forward to it.
Right.
But I don't hesitate. I don't negotiate with myself. It's both physically great because it flushes your blood and your lymph system completely. And you feel like $1 million coming out of it. Going in it is painful as hell. But it's like I don't say in a minute, when I'm ready, or maybe tomorrow. It's like I say go, we go. So it's a mental training as well as it's a physical training, right? And when you do that over and over, and then you say, I'm going to do this, your brain doesn't negotiate. You've trained your own mind. A lot of people have these discussions in their own head back and forth, and that's just a habit. All these things are patterns. I get up and I do my priming, which is putting myself in a state for just 10 minutes, a form of meditation, but it's a directed meditation. I think of 3 things I'm grateful for, about a minute each, and I live them. I don't remember it over there. I get on the roller coaster as it's going down and feel it. And I get associated to what I'm most grateful for, because gratitude destroys the 2 emotions that mess up your life, which are fear and anger. You can't be angry and grateful simultaneously. You can't be fearful and grateful. So I train my nervous system every day to start with that. Then I do this form of a prayer of blessing. Then I do this 3 to Thrive, which is a minute each on what I really want to make happen, but I don't think about making it happen. I see it as done and complete, and I train my brain to feel celebratory in that area. And in 10 minutes, I've changed my body, I've changed my mind. And then my third discipline is I usually text or call someone to leave a message of sincere acknowledgement, because I like to start my day to brighten somebody else's day. But I don't ever bullshit. I don't go, oh, you're cool. I'll go, listen, I saw last Thursday, in the meeting, you did this and this and this. I just thought that was so amazing. I just want to thank you for being that kind of person. And so it starts my day with momentum, physical momentum, mental momentum, relationship momentum. So there's disciplines like that. Then there's my workout, just like you, right? You have your workout that
you look great, by the way.
That pump, and I make sure in that workout I do
They love those chins. That's why
incredibly
the jawline.
so that I'm always pushing a little bit stronger, getting a little bit better in some area. And then what that does is it creates a foundation that when winter's here, you go, give me winter, bitch, bastard. I'll rip through this shit. I don't care what it is you want to do. I'm ready. But most people, they're living their life in front of a screen. A lot of people today, they're living at home, right? Their shoulders are down. They're breathing like this. They get distracted by all the things around them. There's no energy really on a vital level. And then so what happens, there's no stimulus from being at the office for some people anymore. And so what happens is people's lives have gotten down to a low level of energy. If you forgot everything else that I teach you skill-wise, financially, emotionally, business, all those tools, but all you did was constantly increase the strength and energy in your body as a resilient source, you're going to find the answers. Whether I taught them to you or somebody else, you're going to make up the answers.
Guys, this is 100. Yeah, I get to interrupt you, but I have to say this. This is true, what he's telling you. Okay. Not that you need me to second something Tony Robbins is saying, but he's right. I've lived it. He's 1,000% right. Do the things we're talking about. These will make changes for you. The other thing he added to that I must say that is brilliance is that when you are feeling helpless, get helpful. Help people. He had a video out recently that you recorded about the feeding the families this year. You were so emotional. It moved me because I know how this is the richness of your life is helping other people. It's the same in mine. And I think people think, well, once I get over the stuff I need, then I'll do these things. That's what they think. They think once I get my own stuff handled, then I'll be that person. No, you'll get that stuff handled when you're that person. Yeah. And I'm writing, I just want to say one thing about you with that morning message. The FBI did this study recently, I know you know about it, where they're talking about the releasing of hostages. Yeah. And how do you get a hostage release? And is it when someone's taken a hostage, is it the fact that you meet their demands that actually you get the hostages back? Actually, it's about the same, whether you meet the demand or you don't. Believe it or not, there's a 2,000 times greater likelihood of the hostage being released if the person who took the hostages believes you understand why they did it.
That's right.
That they feel seen. And one of the things if you want to be seen as a person, see other people. I have this thing I do, Tony, I'm writing a book about it right now. Let me tell you about you. I love doing that with friends. Let me tell you about you, but something he said, not you're awesome or you're cool or you're fun. Yeah. Something really true that they go, that is true. I did do that. I do have that. So I just want to acknowledge the brilliance of what he's sharing with all of you. And
I'll tell you this.
All right. So really, really good stuff there too. How do you build yourself up so that you can take action, especially in the world and the environment that we live in now, and probably what we're coming into, or in the difficult and struggling times that maybe you've encountered before, or that you know you will inevitably encounter again. How do you do it when you're not feeling like you have enough? How do you do it when you're feeling like you're not enough? I'm kind of curious before we jump into it, and I'll talk to you about some of the things I do. Type it in the chat here. Let me know what are some of the things you are doing or have done to build yourself up to be resilient in tough times. To be not only be resilient, but to also thrive in tough times. I'm curious what some of the things that you guys have to say. Some people have said meditation already before. Some people have talked about making sure that they're tracking their budget, tracking their numbers, getting around good, solid people. Tell me what you guys are doing as well. Brianna, very good one. She says she avoids alcohol. Absolutely, right? Alcohol, this is what I tell my kids about alcohol. Alcohol is something that people think can make their problems go away, but it really only makes them go away temporarily, or it can exacerbate. It can make your problems worse, right? And it can put you into a depressed or agitated mode. It doesn't put you in a positive mindset. A lot of times people maybe drink to make their problems go away. Oh, I had a stressful day. I can't wait to have a nice cold drink at the end of the day, or go out with my girlfriends and have some drinks. But the thing is, when you wake up the next day, not only are you hungover, not only are you in a state of it's almost like you've created debt for yourself, and then in the next day, right? It takes a lot of work and time and energy to get yourself out of that hungover state. And now you're in a position to where your problems are back. You didn't fix your problems with alcohol, right? Rick says he leverages his tech salary and low expenses to take calculated risks with real estate business. That's a great way to do it, right? You've got a good tech salary, right? But you've kept your expenses low. You haven't allowed lifestyle creep to occur. And because of that, you can take more calculated risks. You have to put yourself in a position to where you can take those calculated risks. Because if you don't, you're going to be in a really tough situation. If you're over leveraged and you're spending all the money, and you've got all these giant expenses and things that you're paying, and a bunch of debt that you're paying off, you're not going to put yourself in a position where you can take risks. Or if you do take risks, you have the potential to lose a lot, right? But if you get your income up and you keep your expenses low, you're in a really good position to be able to take more risks in life. Tanya says, audio books for research. I am a huge audiobook person. In, I think, 2018, I read 100 books that year, and they were all on audiobook. And it was like, I don't know, I think it was like 100. It was 100 books, but I think I used to listen at like 1.25, sometimes at 1.5x speed to get it going, because it's really, you got to make sure you get through them quick. But also, there's like a lot of really good books, good content, good information, years of progress that other people have made, years of wisdom that other people have made that you could save by learning from other people. One of the other things that Tony talks about, which is huge, is physical momentum, right? Creating physical momentum to where you go beyond the fear. You don't negotiate with yourself. Mel Robbins, she has her Mel Robbins podcast. You've probably seen her on social media. She does this thing every morning where she wakes up and her alarm goes off. She never hits the snooze, and she just counts herself 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up. And she gets up, right? She's forcing her body. She's going beyond the fear, beyond the stress. She's forcing her body to get up and start moving and doing things that are positive. What I do is I try to get up every single morning, and I go straight to working out. Get up, get my stuff, get out of the house, maybe have a cup of coffee on the way to maybe wake myself up. But I get to the gym, and I start working out to put myself in a positive state of mind, right? I get my blood flowing. I start waking up. I hit the sauna. I hit the steam room, right? That way I'm taking care of my body. I open up all the pores. I feel really good, and I'm creating physical momentum in my life that creates momentum in all the other areas of my life. Not to mention, when you're in the gym and you're working out and you're doing the stuff that you can do, you can pop these headphones in, you can put on a podcast. So now you're creating a mindset or a mental momentum, right? You could put on some spiritual music at the same time, or some, sermons or something like that. Now you're putting yourself and creating spiritual momentum. You can literally like hit all the modalities. And then what I'll actually do is I will text friends and I will check in on them and see how they're doing. I will text family, check in on them and see how I'm doing. So now I'm creating relational momentum as well. And you can literally do that all within the first 1 to 2 hours of waking up. And guess what kind of positive state that's going to put you in, despite all of the emails and the negative, coworkers and the negative employees and the challenges and the things you're going to have to face during that day. Because if you can put yourself in that positive state from the very beginning, you have some momentum that you can build up. And then speaking of that is mental momentum. I'm curious, nobody put this in here, but they said gratitude. This is what our good boy Tony says: gratitude will destroy fear and anger. Right? Are you taking time to think of what you're thankful for in your life? Maybe you hate your job, but it's actually something you should also be grateful for at the same time, right? Maybe it's something you should be grateful for, that you have a place to work, right? A lot of times we get stuck in these mindsets of, we're like, oh, I just hate the people I work with, or I hate the job that I'm in. But then we forget, like, yeah, but at least it's 110 degrees outside and I'm in this cool air conditioned, climate controlled office. Or, yeah, this isn't that great, but it could be a lot worse. I could be in a much worse position than I am now. And I'm not saying it in a flippant way. I think a lot of times people say, well, it could be worse. And they're just kind of saying that to kind of keep their mindset, going, and just kind of keep them in a negative mindset. But like, are you actually taking the time to say, you know what, I am really grateful for the things I do have. I'm grateful for the friends that I do have, for the family that I do have, for the opportunities that I have in front of me. Maybe I haven't fully seized those opportunities, but I am grateful that there is potential for me to grow, or there is potential for me to do something new, or there is potential for me to really walk the path that I feel like I have out in front of me. So what are you actually grateful for? I know Brene Brown, she's done a ton of work on gratitude and actually how that affects your personal life, and it affects your personal psychology. I would highly recommend you look into gratitude. And then we also talk a little bit about relationship momentum, right? Reach out to someone, genuinely connect. I'm curious too, who here reaches out to people on a regular basis and says that they are thankful for them, right? Is there somebody in your life that you haven't talked to in a while that you feel like you need to reach out to? Is there somebody that has been on your mind for a while of like, yeah, I really haven't talked to this family member in a long time and I didn't do it? One of the coolest things that I loved when I was a kid and then also a coach is I used to go to these basketball camps. It's called NBC camps, Northwest basketball camps. They're all over the Northwest, Montana, Washington, Oregon, California. One of the things they would have us do is we would go to camp, and I'd be 15, 16 years old, away from my parents for the whole week, just playing basketball the entire time. And what they would do is they would make us, about 3 days in, sit down, and they'd say, think about how grateful you are for your parents. Think about how grateful you are for your family. Your family member, your parents spent money to send you to come to this basketball camp. They worked tirelessly to help you get here. They drove you here. They helped pack all of your belongings. They helped you get the basketball and the tennis shoes that you're wearing to send you here to better your life. Are you thankful for them? Are you thankful for the people that you have in your life? Have you told them that you're thankful? And so they would have us actually sit down and write these letters down. I remember I'd sit down and I would write this very thoughtful letter to my family. We would actually send it from the camp, letting them know, Mom, Dad, this is what I appreciate about you. And one thing I want to say is, like, don't let time go by. If you get that thing in your head, we all get it, right? It's like, yeah, that person's really special to me. Tell them that they're really special. Don't let time go by, because like we talked about earlier, that person may not be there at some point. You may forget to tell them. And if you didn't do it fresh in the moment, you may not have that opportunity to do it again. So if there's somebody around you that you feel like, yeah, I need to send them that message, or I need to send them that letter or that postcard or whatever, reach out, pick up the phone, call them, let them know how you feel about them, because you just never know when those opportunities might go away. Right. So think about building for yourself physical momentum, mental momentum, and relationship momentum, because those are the ways to conquer the winters that are ahead. And maybe it's an economic winter, like we talked about, like we know is coming, but maybe it's just a different kind of winter that you didn't see coming in your life. Maybe it's a career winter. Maybe it's a friendship winter. Maybe it's something with your kids. Maybe it's something with your parents. Maybe it's something that you just didn't see coming with your own health, right? There's so many things that can happen, but you got to be able to create the momentum in your life on a daily basis, so that when the winters of life come, you will be prepared. You will be in a better position to succeed. So there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. I've talked about the Spartan League, right? If you go to spartanleague.com, there's a lot of information in there about what David and I are doing, and what we do on a weekly basis, and the types of things we do to build the financial fortress that is so important to us. But in addition, we didn't get a chance to talk about this tonight, and something that I wanted to pop up here so you guys can see it, is we actually have a retreat coming up. It is on March 22nd. So we're about 6 weeks out. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's going to be me and David and Christian, his loan partner, and some other members of the David Green team are going to be there specifically to talk about goal setting, to talk about a lot of the stuff we've talked about tonight. And it's a really cool experience. We're going to be hanging out at David's mansion in Scottsdale. I've been there about 3 or 4 times. He owns it with Rob from the Bigger Pockets podcast. And I'm telling you, this place is amazing. There are so many cool things about it. You can literally be sitting out on the back by the pool, and you'll hear coyotes in the distance, but they don't feel like they're in the distance. They feel like they're right there, right? And you're sitting having really good conversations with other people about their lives, about their goals, about their dreams, about their investment portfolio, about their business, about their relationships, and the things that they're doing to make their life better, the things that they're doing to protect themselves in case of a downturn, in case of a future winter. Right. So there's so many things that you can get out of these retreats that I've gotten out of them. There's paradigm shifts. I mean, you're going to walk away with a new perspective, not only on your business, but a new perspective on your life, a new perspective, not only on your life, but a new perspective on what you want out of life, on your purpose, the things that you want to achieve, the things that bring you joy, the things that get you excited to get up every single day and get into the office or get into the gym or get around the people that you want to be around. And it's just a cool opportunity to get to know David Green. A lot of people don't know David. They don't know where he comes from. They don't know, what's his past, what's his upbringing. You get to see a side of David that maybe you didn't get to see before, or you didn't really know. And you'll get to find out David's a really cool guy to hang out with. Not to mention we're going to do like a Top Golf event. So that's something that I would highly suggest you guys check out. And there's a lot of different options, and a super, super fun and exciting time. So as we wrap up tonight, I just want to end it with a couple things. Be prepared. We know that there is a recession likely coming, right? We've seen them in the past. We're going to see them in the future, right? It's a seasonal thing. It's a cyclical thing. There's ups and downs to life that a lot of us don't know that are coming. They're unexpected. But we can prepare ourselves for those expected things. So I want to ask you the question. There's 40 of you that are here hanging out live right now, which I think is amazing on a Friday night. And there'll probably be, probably a couple thousand people that see this video, right? And if you've made it this far, here's what I want to ask you. I want to ask you the question of, what are you doing right now to prepare for the downturns? What are you doing to prepare for the winters? Maybe you're in a winter right now. Okay. What are you doing to dig yourself out of that winter? What are you doing to make the most out of it right now? I get it that life is hard. I get it that things are tough. I get it that it feels like things are happening to you that are out of your control and it's not fair. But the sooner you can focus on what you can do, what you can control, who you can help, who you can serve, who you can throw your time and effort and energy into, the more momentum you're going to be able to build to get yourself out of that position. The more momentum you're going to be able to build to create more strength. The more strength that you have, the more confidence that you have. The more confidence that you have, the more calculated steps and risks of faith that you can take to better your life and better the lives of people around you. And if you find yourself in that position, you're going to be a completely different person than you were in the past, like we've seen with Adriana. We are all growing as individuals. We are all evolving as individuals, maybe in our lives, maybe in our personalities, maybe in our bodies. We're all continually changing. And the cool thing is, like, you can continue to grow each and every single day. But you have to, as John Wooden says, make every day your masterpiece. Focus on when you wake up tomorrow morning, what am I going to do to make today my masterpiece, right? Living in the present is the most important thing that you can do. Living with what the task you have in front of you right now. What can I do to be the best, to make this the absolute best for the future? Because if you focus on what you have right in front of you and you live in the present, you are living in a perfect modality of where you need to be right there. Because if you're living in the past, that's not a good thing. If you're living in the future, that's not a good thing. The past is all about being depressed and feeling regrets. The future is all about feeling worried, right? But you're here right now in the present and you're getting something out of this. And I want you to ask yourself, what is it that you're getting out of it? What are you going to do to take action? What are you going to do differently tomorrow than you did today? What are you going to do better tomorrow than what you did today? A couple people in the chat have shared what they're going to do differently. Kenosi says he or she's going to focus on personal growth and competing with myself. I love it. I think that is a really thought-provoking and vulnerable and transparent answer. I really love it. Keegan says that they're going to live below their means. I love that as well. That's a great step. Tanya says, created a business plan on Live Plan and ran scenarios for the downturn. Thanks for the uplifting show. You're welcome, Tanya. And I'm glad. That is very cool. So creating a business plan. She's getting focused. She's thinking about what she wants to do in the future. And she's creating scenarios for the downturn. She's preparing herself for different contingency plans, things that could happen, things that could be good, things that could go bad. Rhonda says tracking more. Oh, you're speaking my love language. Very good. Spending less. Oh, yeah. Finding special ways to spend time with those I love without spending more to do it. That is so cool. Fun stuff. Lydia says, surround yourself with positive people and successful people. Always forward. Never look back unless you're looking to see how far you have gone forward. Absolutely. And, oh, okay. Thank you for that. It's, he says, when you see K, no C, it's Chris. Thank you for that. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to do what I have. Well, actually, no, tomorrow's Saturday. I'm going to take my son and his cousin and my daughter to a fishing derby. So I'm going to make sure to spend time with them. We're going to go try to catch some trout, freshly planted trout. That's right. They do plant fish in a little fishing tournament. And that's how I'm going to spend my day tomorrow, with the people that I love. And I'm going to continue focusing on building the relationships that I have in my life and focusing on being the best Kyle that I can be every single time for when those downturns occur. So I want to encourage everyone to do the same. Thank you, everybody. Again, go check out SpartanLeague.com. There's a lot of really good information there. And then as well as DavidGreen24.com retreats. Come hang out with us in March. It's going to be a really powerful and exciting time. And if you ever want to reach out to me on Instagram. It's at Kyle Renke, my name. And I'd love to chat with you some more about your personal goals, what you have going on in your life, get to know you, and chat with you about Spartan League. If you have questions about that, chat with you. You can see the little Spartan behind me. There he is right there. And chat with you about the retreat or any other things that you have going on. So thank you to everyone for chilling and hanging out tonight. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you here next Friday for another YouTube Live.